now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, let's see, what's the date today? May 15th. And this is the bi-weekly, I guess, hangout for the MicroProfile community. The minutes, the link to the minutes is posted in the chat. Everyone is responsible to help keep those minutes up to date as we're going through the discussion. So I know John.
Repost it. Everything was on.
Oh, what was that, Amelia?
Could you please repost them again? I know I have them, but if I leave here, I might lose this. Like the minutes. Repost them.
They're posted to the chat in this.
It doesn't save the history.
Oh, it
I cannot
doesn't?
see the chat. I cannot see the chat. Oh, no,
There.
no, I can see.
Ah, okay. So it only shows it after you log in. Okay, so there's the minutes for everyone that's on board so far. Let's see. Oh, we got a pretty good turnout today. Looking at everybody on. Okay, so John is not able to make it today. Both he and I, we're kind of driving the 1.4, 2.0 releases. And so we're trying to find out where we are at with each of the components, working up to the 1.4 and 2.0 release. So I guess I know he posted a request for each of the leads or someone to represent each of the components to be on and to talk about where they are at in relationship to the release candidates and their final update. So let's start with that. Emily, I guess your picture is front center here. So where are we at with the config and fault tolerance updates?
Yeah, so it's I done the configure release candidate 1 and 2. I'm going to do another one. Yeah, it's a tiny update. It's RC3, and there is is very minimal changes. It's just typo and etc. And then that, so hopefully that would be a final release. And then Open Liberty already get all the TTK to pass, so proof it's all good. And for fault tolerance, I did RC1.
So what is your target for having 1.4 available? Or no, it'd be 1.3, isn't it?
Yeah, 1.3 this week.
Okay.
I'm targeting for tomorrow. So for fault tolerance, I'm going to do another RC2 after the call as well. And then hopefully RC2 will become the final release. So
and also this week?
Yeah.
This might be unrelated, but Emily, why don't we have the link to the minutes for JSR in this? We have created a box, but it's missing the minutes.
JSR, come here, JSR.
I couldn't hear you.
Are you mean the configuration JSR? JSR.
Correct. From the calls.
Do we want to discuss that JSR in this MicroProfile call? I do not know.
Oh.
No. What I'm saying is we created, what I'm saying is when you're giving the status, it made me realize while going through the minutes that starting the minutes, we have the config JSR and we have a box of 10, 11 projects, but I don't see the minutes link. So I was saying for later, just can you add, you or Mark add it? Because
we have a
check, who is doing health checks, and we need to just figure out where are those minutes.
Okay. It's make the minutes available somewhere. Yeah.
Here. Until we move them to
in the MicroProfile minutes.
Yeah, at the top of the minutes, there's a chart there.
That's Heiko. Heiko, you have a task, and guess what? Here, we're missing the minutes for marketing. Can we?
Let's let Kevin finish his sentence.
Go ahead.
So I was explaining to Emily that at the top of the minutes, there's a chart. Okay.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. Sorry.
Yeah. And then we need one from Heiko Braun. It's not Heiko Rupp, but Heiko Braun has the health check stuff.
I think that has switched over to, is it Antoine?
Yeah.
Brown, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry, you guys, I did trade it, but I was like, why are not the minutes? Go ahead, go back, rewind.
Okay. So, Amelia, did you have something else or not?
Yes, can you add, because you created the box, or maybe it was John, one extra box for marketing to add the minutes. We don't have that, but not right now. It can be done later.
Okay.
Thank you. Emily, please continue,
Okay.
and apologies for cutting you.
Okay. Yeah. So for the fault tolerance, I created release candidate 1, and then after that we push another couple pull requests. So after the call, I will create another RC2. So that would be that would be the final release.
Okay.
Yeah, that's over. So I'm trying to add a link to the configure JSR minutes. So.
Okay, thank you. How about JWT? Is that David? Or?
Yeah, I'll do that. So they're waiting for a spec update from me, and then we can do an RC one. That's just a minor update based upon the last meeting where we were able to get together. So that should be done today or tomorrow, and then Scott should be able to roll the RC.
And what's the goal for having 1-1 final?
So we've defined how to actually configure the JWT enforcement. So before it was vendor specific. We simply had in the specification, when we see a JOT come in off the wire in the authorization header, we must be able to validate it with an RSA key, public key, and the way you give the public key, not outside the spec.
Okay.
And so in this version of it, we're saying the way you give the key is with these 3 different config properties, and now we're leveraging the config API to get those config properties into the app. So 1.1 introduces a dependency on the config spec.
Okay.
The first version of the config spec, we don't care about any of the post stuff. So there's no, if they decide to go to Java 9, we're still fine. We can use the old config spec.
Okay.
That's the high level.
Yeah, but then what is your expected date to be able to finalize 1.1?
Well, like I said, we're going to probably do an RC this week. So
Right.
Today or tomorrow should be.
Right. So that would be your release candidate. So I guess you're not expecting many comments after that. So like, are you?
We've already gone through the. So we had a. I don't know, like a 5-6 page spec that went out like 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And so we're in the last round of feedback at this moment. We have agreement.
Okay.
So I'm not expecting any changes of agreement. What we're looking at in terms of spec updates now are like really, really tiny.
Okay.
Just tweaks.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Other REST client. Do we have anybody on from that?
I guess I'm involved with that to a certain extent.
Okay.
Last week when we met, Andy said he was going to roll a RC release, but I actually don't know whether he has yet.
Who's Andy? Driver or the holder?
McWright, I think is
Yeah.
his name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Andy McRae.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be John Ammett, and John's had to kind of pull back a little bit, so Andy was helping to drive it.
Yeah, John has a new job, so he's doing both.
I took a look at that spec, and it basically looks like EJB with REST under the covers.
What?
And make it cool.
Yeah. Go from binary to text. It's so much faster. But I mean, I get it. We all become our father someday.
I know that. I know Andy had. I mean, he had accidentally tried to do 1.1 just right off the bat without even doing a release candidate, and then the build actually failed. So that was probably good. And then he was going to be respinning as a release candidate, and then get the 1.1 out shortly afterwards. So I'll follow up with him offline and make sure that we're on target for this week.
Kevin, when you follow with the leads sometimes, can I recommend that you do so to the person and then see the community? Because I notice, and even within the drivers, just freaking feedback and retrospective here, that everything is being done like the awesomeness and not awesomeness and the quiet, because, or we're too busy to communicate on the open and think that we are going to bother someone else. But I think it's best for us to give feedback and take feedback in the open, especially when it's about technology and how we are doing stuff with current water.
But I will say though, I mean, like when I'm trying to follow up on, you know, the release things and trying to find out just where they're at, I mean, a simple ping on Slack or something just to find out, you know, where they at. I mean, that's a lot less intrusive than
you're talking
to respond to an email.
Yeah, you're talking about Gitter, right? Not a Slack. We don't have a Slack aside from marketing or MicroProfile.
Well, I've got Slack contacts with a lot of people outside of IBM. I mean, so I use Slack both inside and outside of IBM.
There's the Java EE Slack that Adam Bean put together.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I still use that. But yeah, and then the Gitter channels, those also work. Yep. So that could be more public.
So just speaking in terms of someone who occasionally needs to be chased, a Slack poke, go respond to this email does help, which you do. And
It's better than a Slack.
So, I mean, I haven't noticed your pokings being like a significant amount of content. The content is typically on list.
Yep.
I like it.
The nudge. So I haven't seen it be too much in the dark.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will.
I mean, definitely do try on the list first, and then, you know, but if you CC me on the list, like if you put me in the 2 and just the list and CC, that does help me as well.
Yeah. And I know that the Google group, now I guess it prevents us from putting CCs when you're interacting directly with the group. You actually have to do it from an email client. So that's kind
Google
of
totally has failed us on that with the new feature. We cannot adjust it anymore.
Yeah.
I went through it last December and I couldn't. Even if we were to pay, we cannot do that through the client. So we need to go through email and then send it. So that's how I send all the CCs. It requires you to leave the site. But anyway, thank you. I was just saying, like,
Yep.
you do awesome,
Right.
but you sit there and avoid the Slack, because I noticing that it will take us too much time to track people, and we should know what you are doing. We should know what I'm doing. We should know what everyone is doing. Even if it takes you 5 minutes, it's work done for this community. It should be in the open. Even if we're sucking, even if we're doing something amazing, it should be in the open, because that enables others to join and say, this is how I'm going to track other people. We need to be an example that we expect to be to others.
Yeah. And I do think that in general, I think all of us are doing a good job at trying to be public with participation. I even have a little bit of a problem sometimes keeping up with all of the Gitter channels, because there's a lot of activity on those, and it's like I would have liked to have seen that in the Google
mailing list. Yeah.
Yep.
Forget about it. It's like incredible.
I think that, you know, on the Apache side of the fence, as you know, Kevin, I mean, basically there's the rule that if it doesn't happen on the mailing list, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you know, the policy is you're allowed to talk via IRC, smoke signals, carrier pigeon, whatever you want, but they have to be summarized on the list if that's going to be a decision. So, you know, I think if there is a lot of heavy instant chat kind of stuff going on, we just need to poke people to summarize that once in a while.
And try to get it public. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last item in that for the status would be open tracing. I don't know that we have anybody. Pavel, I don't see anybody on for open tracing. I do know because I've been working with him on the mailing list for working through the RC process. And
Yeah.
so he's making progress, and I think they're very close to doing a final release.
Yeah, he has a question for you in the GitHub about bumping the open tracing dependency from 0.30 to 0.31.
Yeah,
And
we already did take care of that.
okay.
And that's a perfect lead-in, Heiko, for the next item. Pavel, when I mentioned to him the process for this, he went ahead and created the CQ for that update on the dependency. And that's really what we need each of these components to do, that if you have updated any of your dependencies or created new ones, whether it's for the spec or the API or the TCK, we need to identify those with those CQs, the contribution questionnaires. So there's a little link right there that explains the process. And then like what Pavel did when he had questions about it, he just posted them back, and he took it right through the process. So we do need that from each of the components that are delivering in 1.4 and 2.0. Are there any questions on that aspect? I don't, I think on previous releases, I mean, some components did it. I think I did most of them, but like, any questions on that process? Heiko, it looks like you're about ready to laugh about something.
Yeah, no, I'm smiling because on one side I'm so glad that you are doing all that. On the other side, it means I have no idea what one has to do if you are not around.
Yeah, well, and that's what John is finding out when he's been trying to do the 1.4 release. So I think we're getting our instructions better anyway, because he's updating that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. So we did have in a previous project of mine some API checker. I know it does not exactly apply here, but where we had a list of intentional API changes, and if things were not listed in that list, that would break. Perhaps we could introduce something similar that compares with the previous tag dependencies in the POM, and it would break the build if it's not there or whatever. And so you have to be very explicit with this list and clear it with the CQs. I'm not yet sure how that could work, but such a mechanism could be an idea.
So this is sorry. Anyway, this is a lead to like the other question in the similar area, and at the moment, like MicroProfile config already uses semantic versioning, like has a baseline, and then when we do another release, it automatically compare against the previous release version. This is directly for the API you are releasing, is not for the dependencies. But I think I have a plan, like we should all the project, we should use the same plugin and make sure we are like when we introduce the break changes, we bump a version, and then we should be diligent about the binary compatible incompatible changes. But I think it's a good idea also to keep a list of the dependencies, but I don't know any available tools around to automatically work out from the POM.
Yeah, either the POM or comparing the APIs for any changes, just to kind of flag things as coming through.
Yeah, for the APIs, like semantic versioning, that BND tools will be able to figure out, but it doesn't look at the POM dependencies. Yeah, it's okay. There's because I have done this work in the config, and Yeah, and I think it will publish some the issue on the PR so that all the projects can follow the similar rules, at least to manage the API.
Yeah, you know, this is actually kind of getting back to at least some of the ideas with a parent POM, which we have discussed a few times, and we kind of have a start with one, but you know, we don't have it in place yet. And you know, so that type of common processing, that would probably be good to move up to the parent POM. But yeah, it requires more discussion.
You know, like Audrey and John Ament wrote a good blog on MicroProfile APIs. It was posted yesterday, and I retweeted it via MicroProfile. So it's technical. I think we could utilize their input.
So
is blog. Is our blog mentioned in the MicroProfile.io? Can we add a link?
Yeah, they need to send a PR so the blog can go into MicroProfile.io. They haven't done so I'm going to ask that after the call. But the blog is about IPIs, and I think it's important because we're moving with content. It's technical, and I think, you know, when someone writes something, they should be, oh, you know, do you want to own this task? And you just delegate.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, thanks, Heiko. Okay, so thank you for all of the updates there on the 1420 release. I mean, so far I think we're pretty much on track for that. John and I were going through some of the items that are on the list in order to get the CQs done, the IP logs done, getting the reviews done. We're still shooting for June 6th. If we miss that one, we have one 2 weeks later that we could still get it out in June. So, okay. So the next topic, James had entered an item here to talk about the MicroProfile reactive kickoff.
Yep. So this is primarily just a marketing thing, just to let everyone know that we had the first kickoff last week, and the next Hangout is going to be in a few hours. So there were 3 people, including myself, at that. So anybody interested in joining, I know it's tough for Europeans, but Americans or North Americans, it shouldn't be too bad. Please come along. There is one thing that I did want to ask. So one of the things that we was kind of decided on or discovered in the approach to reactive doc is that the effort for creating a standard reactive streams manipulation library that Lightbend was doing, trying to get into the JDK, should be done in MicroProfile first, because it's, you know, we won't be able to have a dependency on JDK 12, for example.
Yep.
So I created, so that's the first PR for the for MicroProfile reactive, but because it's an import of an existing project, I think it's about 5,000 lines of code. And so something that was discussed last week is, in order to properly review that and iterate on that, rather than doing it all in one pull request, put it into a branch and then iterate on that, because then you can create multiple issues and pull requests, and it'll be much easier to collaborate. So is that okay if we work in a branch first before we put it into master?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I just want, because I'm not sure what the process is here on pushing directly to the repo.
I don't think this is an issue per se. I mean, you could also do that in master. I think what the point here is that you are not forced to be part of an umbrella release. So you can work in master as much as you want, as long as you want. And then when you think it's right, then you just say, okay, now I tag it and release it. So I think whatever works best.
But isn't that better to work in a sub-project and then get some PRs for the others around, you know, the technical side, can see it before going into the master and breaking and stuff. Just it seems like
Well, this is a brand new spec, so there's nothing there to break, right?
Okay.
So let's do whatever is the fastest for the most collaboration points and prioritize that.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'll push to master then. I just didn't want to assume that. So the problem with pushing to master is that it means that in the state that it's in now, it's kind of, that's by default what will end up there if nothing changes. Whereas if you go in a branch first, then you kind of have that extra step of, okay, is everyone happy with this before we?
Yeah, I think the nature of it is that, you know, you're the one putting the strong technical foot forward. So if you don't contribute to master and you contribute to a branch, everyone's going to treat that branch as master.
Right.
So you guys just go simple.
So James, I am going to ask you once again, like a few months ago when you started with us, can you be the guinea pig and document the process while you go through this? You are bringing a new spec and it's going to be added, and just document it in the Git, and then this will enable others, like partners like Liveband, in the future to say, this is what happened with them. Can you do that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there a good place to document that?
Yes.
Or should I just keep it in a Google Doc and then we can put it somewhere later?
No, write it directly in a Git. You have access. You are a committer now. Congratulations on that. So just go directly to commit it into documentation and get it done. And if I ask one of these guys who are writing those things, there are so many folders.
Okay.
Just how to do it.
I mean, the other thing for your process could be that you create master with a relatively small thing, just a placeholder, and then submit a few pull requests subsequently with the stuff that you are trying to bring in, so that discussions can happen on the pull requests.
That would be my choice.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do with the messaging spec, with the messaging side. But with this streams, it was a little hard to break it up into small things.
How many lines of code are you bringing, James?
About 5,000.
Oh, sorry.
So I think I think I want to probably reiterate what David said. Take your liberty and do whatever you feel most comfortable with, and collaborate well with the group. And just do whatever you think will move faster. And
Great.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I had to raise.
Do you write the minutes of what you're going to do, James?
Yeah,
We're not going to do it for. Yeah.
Yeah, I started a little bit, James, but you can elaborate a little bit on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will try to join your call one day, James, because it's really late in the UK, but I think probably in a couple weeks' time. And I will try to join.
And you know, James put us to shame. He wrote this amazing blog and he said he gets up every day at 4 to join this call. So really, our excuse is like, what? Reciprocate. And that even goes for me, that I am not even a coach.
It's what I get for living in such a beautiful part of the world.
Well, he gets out of the bar at 2 a.m. He got an hour to sober up, and then he just pops on the call.
Let's not go there. We're flying on Saturday, so you will see these things. But anyway, really.
This is awesome.
I know, right?
Okay, so James, anything else?
No, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so one item I wanted to bring up, I know we had, a few phone calls, and we wrote up on the wiki on our versioning for the component specs as well as the umbrella spec. And I posted out to the Google group asking a question about the umbrella spec, because as, I continued to work on that, looking at the Jakarta EE stuff, knowing the background on Java EE, I'm questioning whether or not we should be applying semantic versioning to the umbrella spec. And so I wanted to revisit that. If you've got immediate comments, you can bring them up here, or we can try to do it on the Google forum. And if that doesn't work, I'll try to get another phone call going so that we can work through it. But the more that I was looking at our rules, I was just getting more and more uncomfortable with how this was really going to work in practice. So I'd like to revisit that.
So does that mean that our current 2.0 should be a 1.5, or that we should do a 2.0 and a 3.0 at the same time? No. See, actually, I think there's a note that's in there that says, hey, we're not going to follow these rules exactly for 2.0. But actually, if we got rid of the semantic versioning on the umbrella spec, then I understand.
Well, I just wanted to add, we didn't actually agree to semantic versioning in anything, meaning semantic versioning dictates you cannot increase the version for marketing purposes, basically. It doesn't call that out, but that's why people would normally do it. You can only do it if you're making a breaking change. So is that the concern, or what is specifically the concern?
The concern is that we're trying, okay, I know that we didn't do semantic versioning exactly. I understand that. But we were trying to apply some of that semantic versioning concepts to the umbrella spec. And to me, I was tripping over that. And it was because we put the note in there that said, well, we're not going to really follow these rules for 2.0. And then we had the discussion with Jakarta EE as far as how we're going to be numbering those. And just having an umbrella spec, trying to follow semantic versioning, if you want to put quotes around it, I think that would start to increment too rapidly. It wouldn't make sense after a while. Okay. It's the frequent major version increase that right. Primarily. Right. So
I'm still kind of unsure of what that means. I mean, is that essentially meaning that there's no real meaning for a version and we can change? You're suggesting we just change, because I thought the implication of what you said was that the next version of kind of Jakarta EE after the initial one would be versioned at 9, and then it would be 10 and 11 beyond that.
Right.
And what we've been doing is point releases for each incremental. So I was struggling to understand how those two relate, unless we're saying that, if we're going to follow the Jakarta EE model, then we would start doing new major releases more regularly.
Yeah. So actually, I mean, Java EE never prevented a point release either. I mean, there actually was a 7.1.
Was there?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a MR for Java EE 7. It was 7.1.
Okay. I know there was an MR for CDI to make 1.2.
Yep. But nope, it was separate.
Interesting.
Kevin, I understand the operational part of why you are concerned, especially with the moving waters and all the specs being moved to Jakarta EE from Roku. However, to worry about something this soon, we need to continue observing the waters. But the community has not decided. The MicroProfile community has not decided yet, or even started a conversation about Jakarta EE moving as a project.
No, it has nothing to do with that, though. I
mean, you mentioned it, but it was actually orthogonal. So, yeah. So, what the comment that I would make is, I understand the concern, and I don't think it's not a concern. I do think it's a concern, so I understand it. The reality, regardless of what we decide, is with the 6-month Java release train, I don't think any of us know what the next year and a half of versions of anything looks like.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too early to worry.
So I'm personally in brace for impact mode, right? Like in the last several years, we were at like ASM version 6, And if things keep going the way they're going, we'll be on ASM version 9 in a year and a half. So, and we all know how big of an impact that is on all of our related technologies, because we do a lot of bytecode engineering. And whatever we decide, we may get forced to upgrade our major version more frequently just because of the Java language changes, or not adopt the Java language changes.
Correct. I think what
I don't know what the right answer is what I'm saying.
Well,
I'm giving you a firm, ambiguous. Yep, it's tough.
Yep, yep, it is. And
go ahead.
okay, so that's why I'm kind of wondering if we, you know, I like what we're doing with the direction for the component specs, and we are trying to be diligent on that. But I'm just wondering if the umbrella spec, maybe, you know, maybe we should just hold off on that. Don't define rules. We can define it. We can use the marketing aspect, if you want to call it that.
Kevin, in MicroProfilers, listen to this. MicroProfile project was never a project of business as usual. We have been always outside the box. If we start to limit ourselves from stopping on doing things we want to try, we are going to fail. We created MicroProfile. We co-founded MicroProfile so that we can try stuff. We have spent countless of hours working in the Git, and I say stick to it, fail fast, and move forward. And I'm not saying that it's not valid what you're saying, but I'm saying we have worked on it. We have put so many brains on it. Try it, test it, and move forward. And if it doesn't stick, so be it. We can adjust it. This is why we have this calls, and this is why we decide to talk in the open. If we are not willing to stick to what we have worked on in the past, when we think it might be likely the best solution for now, then what are we here? Why is MicroProfile exist? We are not Jakarta EE at the moment. It might take 6 months to 2019. It's not even about that. Let's keep MicroProfile light and let's try things and fail fast. Just, you know.
Yeah, I think it's I agree. However, I do see what Kevin's concern. I think originally when we talk about this versioning, my bigger worry is that we jump the major version too frequently. I think it's one thing is that we could do like a grouping, like the big major version release together. And the other things that I think if it doesn't work, I do agree. Maybe like for the umbrella spec, we could use the marketing version. Maybe I think we should do another discussion to like clarify the concern and etc. So we can discuss like in a separate meeting.
So why don't we leave the current guidelines in place, and when if we get to a point where it would say, hey, you need to do a 3.0 release, we say we'll do a checkpoint to decide whether we're comfortable with that. And if we're not comfortable with it, we can decide at that point whether or not the guidelines are the guidelines we want to live by.
Yeah,
Lazy plus one from me.
I think Kevin was going to agree. I was going to agree. I mean, I think we don't know, and so therefore, not knowing, we could just leave them in place with the footnote saying we reserve the right to toss these in the garbage if they feel off.
Exactly.
Yep.
I prefer that, guys, and I'm really biased about this. It's really like, can we agree to disagree and move forward?
Well, I don't think there's any disagreement. It's basically like we made the rules with the anticipation of the future, but when the actual facts of the future show up, we're totally within our rights to do a point check on the rules and see, do we still like them? Correct.
What I do not want to see is another call about the same topic and spend the next month talking about this. That is a waste of time.
I don't think we would come up with a different answer because we don't know, right? And so
let's not waste the time.
So, I agree that we should maintain the rules for the component specifications as is, so we have some hope of knowing what's going on in the various specifications so we can make that call on the umbrella when the time comes. But, you know, part of the pragmatism of this would be like, say, for example, we're making a breaking change in metrics, but we pretty much know for a fact no one's using that version, and everyone will use the next version. So we'd be making a major change in MicroProfile from 2 to 3, when in fact we estimate the actual impact on the market is like 5% of our user base.
Yep.
It's just one of those things that we won't know until we have the situation in hand.
Okay, so I kind of summarized our discussion here, put it in the minutes. If you've got other items, other thoughts, put it out on the thread and we can have a little bit more discussion. But I think leaving it as is with a footnote that indicates that it may change based on future experiences, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah.
You should add, let's add, we will fail fast and get up faster. I mean, seriously, I believe the blank list works, especially with documentation, one sentence. Like, in addition, it's just so honest.
Okay. Just as a side note, like, even the JVM does actually remove functionality in point releases.
Yeah.
Just they work really hard to try and figure out if anybody's actually using that, and if they determine that it's just like no one's using this, they'll just go ahead and yank it. They don't change the version from Java 7 to 8. They just go, it's gone.
Yep, and I know, that's some of the other items that even as I was going through some of our component level, and we said that if we removed support for Java SE version, that would automatically be a breaking change. And it's like, well, does it really have to be?
Well, on that one, I don't know. I mean, so if your app doesn't work without a JVM upgrade, then that might be the case. But like I say, the release train is going to come out so quickly. Who knows how the industry is going to have to, it's the drum beat, right? That's the drum beat we all march to. It's the pace car. So it decided to go at a really fast speed. We went from one Java version every 2 years to a new one every 6 months. Yeah, 2 or 3, right? So, anyway.
Okay, good.
I have one question, sort of related to this and also to the previous discussion about release candidate versions. So we will certainly have this breaking change coming at some point in time. And now we wonder if we should have for the 1.4 a version where we deprecate some of the stuff that we already know that is going to break. So especially there's one annotation that we want to get rid of and replace by 2 others to make things a lot clearer for the user. What's the stance here? I mean, we can now have a release that only basically puts an add deprecated mark on it. Or do you think that's worthwhile or not? I mean, it's of course good citizen, but
so this is something that you've already been discussing as a team that these particular annotations or the APIs will be deprecated.
Yes.
Okay. So it's something that you could still put together within the next week.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's a tiny change in this case. It's an add deprecated at the end.
Yeah. And if you are thinking that that's the route that you're going to take, getting something out as soon as you can for deprecation, I think would be worthwhile.
Okay. I think then we'll also try to do that.
Do we need to set up a rule at all, or you take your own common sense, whether you want to do the if you change something, do you want to for example, I want to delete a method and then change it, add another one to replace it. I could directly delete it and then add another one. Probably Heiko, for your case, is you are going to delete it anyway. You could deprecate it first and then delete it. So what's the process? Is it like we can do whatever we want? So
I would say that if you're going to be breaking your API, that's a breaking change.
yeah.
Right? And using the rules that are discussed, that would be, so what I would say is that the guidance that I would phrase it like this: the rules that are discussed, you don't need any permission to use those rules. It's instantly granted, right? You don't need to check with anybody to use the rules that are written. If you suddenly decide you have a use case that you should use different rules, I think we all need to have a conversation about what your use case is, and there needs to be an agreement.
We didn't discuss the deprecation though. So I think is according to our rule, we can directly delete it. We and what I had does is didn't need it.
You're right. You can totally delete it, and then that you would, using the rules discussed, you would have to change your major version.
Yes.
And then we would have to have a discussion on whether or not we're going to include you.
Yep.
Or not. And if you say, I don't want to change, and that's an umbrella discussion.
Yeah.
But if you want to say, I want to delete a method and I don't want to change my major version, then we have to have a discussion.
No. It's yeah.
Right?
I mean,
and then I do want to point out how much of a burden is that method that it's really worth all of our collective time. Could it just be deprecated with the very scary method?
But the thing is, what Hangout does is like deprecate now, and next version is bump the major version, get rid of it. And so my suggestion is like, do we really want to like go through deprecation and then delete it, or the Hangout could go ahead to directly delete it and then bump the major version and wait for the next umbrella release?
Yeah, but why, if you know that you're going to be removing something, why not mark it as being deprecated to give a warning?
Right.
Yeah, but it's deprecated, but new things will not appear. So this is a problem.
Why wouldn't the new one appear?
So are you going to okay? So Heiko, are you going to like directly add new things at the same time to deprecate this one?
I don't think we would add the replacement immediately.
Yeah.
But only after the change in the next major.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Probably put it in a text form, but not in the working form.
Yeah, this is the issue. We definitely something no alternative.
Yeah, I would agree with Emily. If you're going to deprecate something and there isn't an alternative, you're basically forcing people to use the deprecated version. So
it's not going to send well with the community.
I mean, I guess it's certainly, perhaps you could argue it's better than not having given them the heads up. But I think it is still strange that there's no alternative.
I think that's the usual, right? Would be to have a pointer to something new. Otherwise, it's just making people uneasy that they're using something that's deprecated.
That will bring bad PR for us to say they stop something and there is nothing new. So why will any will it stop? What API will it stop without having a newest version? I mean, what is the rush? I don't get it. Why are we worrying about this when we shouldn't deprecate anything that doesn't have a replacement? Or are we going to kill it completely, which means that's it? Or are we going to have something new to replace it?
I mean,
why are we talking about this?
I think the point is we are also feeling uneasy to just remove the old one without notice in the next major, so in Matrix 2.0, and
so
just
this is about
without giving a warning.
Right.
Well,
perhaps we could give the warning in 2.0 and take it out in 3.0.
Exactly. What?
I mean, I guess it takes a little longer, but it just means that we have in 2.0.
Or you can provide both in 2.0. You deprecate the one, you give the replacement at the same time.
But
that's what I'm saying too. Is 2.0 could be both, and then 3.0 could be removed.
It won't be 2.0 anymore because you have not a breaker change. So
well,
that
we'll have other breaking changes.
Other breaking changes.
Don't you worry, Emily.
I think we need to, Heiko, I think, and Emily, I agree, but I think we need to be kinder to ourselves when we deprecate something. It just sounds like so like that. But it is okay to move on and have something new, even if we're going to kill it. So we should not be feeling, oh, what if one person uses it? Guess what? Open source cannot survive with just one person. It requires resources. So we need to be super tough on what we kill and what we decide to bring forward. And we should just be unapologetic. Because being nice and with something that we have no idea what is going to be the ROI, the return on investment on users, means nothing to me. Practically speaking, we don't even have the stats of our users. So being worried about what will happen is too early. So let's move forward.
Yeah.
Amazing with that replacement.
Yeah, I mean, for this change, we know that our users are confused with the existing way up to a point where it's close to useless. So we need to change it.
Okay, there you go. So you have the stats. Why hasn't this been documented?
All right. Could I just add something there? So on the interests of potentially exploring new ways of doing things for the sake of innovation, I could see a particular argument for putting deprecation on the methods that you know you're going to remove, even though you don't have replacement for them, provided your deprecation statement encourages people heavily to get involved in the list, and you actually are able to leverage their feedback or in some way provide them a way to get involved.
Yeah.
I would say a blank deprecation with nothing there won't make anything positive happen because people would just be scared and they won't know what to do, right? So if you just give deprecation and no guidance, it's not gonna. You're just telling everybody don't use this API. It's broken. Wait till 2.0, and so they will wait for the 2.0, and you're not gonna get anything better in 2.0 because you'll have robbed yourself from the feedback that you could be getting now, right? So 2.0 won't be good unless you have people try out the existing stuff and give you some information about what they like and don't like.
Brutal feedback. It can be destroyed. Why not attach to anything?
Hold on. So if you could blaze a trail, perhaps, maybe put a wiki page up, detail all of your thoughts about why that should be deprecated, what it could be, what's being discussed, and how do people get involved in the discussion, and put that in your deprecation thing, just a link to the wiki page. Maybe you could try that and see if it's an effective way to get people into the project rather than just repel them away. But I think on face value, deprecation with nothing else is going to repel them.
Yep.
You go to crazy lengths to try to pull them in. Okay, maybe that could be a new way of doing things.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Guys, before we end this call, let me just, we posted some minutes about the marketing call we had yesterday, and this is about the MicroProfile white paper, which is one of the most important topics on an update that we finally have. So go there and read it. That's it from me.
Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to point out, I am trying to go through and clean up the MicroProfile bomb and MicroProfile repos. That whole conversation that we've had 2 or 3 times, I've started to do some of the PRs. Andro's been helping with reviewing the PRs before I go ahead and integrate them. But just, I know that most of you guys aren't working this aspect because this relates to the specs that we generate for MicroProfile 1.x and 2.x. But I want to get this done before we do this next release. So just for your awareness that some things will be moving around between those two repos.
And do you need help? Because it sounds like you're like a two-man show for the project.
Yeah, I know. And well, Andro's been helping. I know Ken, he's been helping, and Emily's been helping. So yeah,
Okay.
it's been slow, but you know we'll get it done. If you want to volunteer, you know, come on out.
I'm not technical. I can't help you with code. So, but I'm saying like this group has some technical people. So.
Yep. Okay, so that's the end of the agenda, and it looks like we're out of time.
Yeah, one last question. We haven't seen IBM attend the MicroProfile marketing calls since the beginning of the year. Do you guys think you can reach out to your marketing organization and have IBM presence during those calls?
Who has been the rep for those?
Well, last year, IBM had like 3 different people attend at different times during the year, but starting this year, you know,
No one.
You guys haven't been attending, so.
Yeah, I know that they've been pulled off because of the Jakarta EE, but I thought they were still attending the MicroProfile one, but I will follow up.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Really good point, Cesar. Really good point. You should have added it yesterday. Let's add it to the from yesterday. Cesar, really, really good.
Okay.
What was that, Amelia? I didn't catch that.
I was saying to Cesar, really good call on this call, actually. Given that we have a few IBMers, I'm like, where is your team?
Yeah.
We do all the development work. We can't do marketing too.
No, not you guys. You can go and say, guys, we're looking bad on this.
Yep.
It's just honesty.
Yeah.
We have another call, but love seeing each one of you.
Okay.
Next time we're going to be in Europe, so kisses to everyone.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.